All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers took the field at home this evening, desperate for a win, as they came into today's contest nursing a three-game losing streak as they are at the point of no return in regards to having a shot at making the playoffs this season. Now, intensity was the name of the game for Pittsburgh this evening as they clicked all day long in their 34 to 11 win over the rival Cincinnati Bengals. You think about it, the tone was set in this one early on when Mason Rudolph connected with George Pickens on that 86-yard touchdown pass to put Pittsburgh up 7-0. Then early on in the second quarter, Pittsburgh scored their second touchdown of the game on a 7-yard run from Calvin Austin, and that was on the heels of the interception of Jake Browning, the Bengals starting quarterback, in the end zone. And before you blinked, Pittsburgh was up 24 to nothing at the break. It's one of those where we know what Pittsburgh can do defensively. And if their offense can answer the call like they did today, it makes life so much easier for that Steelers defense because basically I know that the Bengals were able to score some points in the second half, but nonetheless, you spot this Pittsburgh defense a 24-point lead. TJ Watt, Cam Haywood, and the rest of those studs on that side of the football, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to come after your quarterback. And that's what happened with Jake Browning today. He was sacked three times, seemed a lot more than that. Why? Because he was consistently under pressure. We saw him throw three interceptions, three bad interceptions. And honestly, you have to give this Pittsburgh defense a ton of credit for that. Making that Bengals offense one dimensional by being able to jump out to that early lead. You took away from their run game. The fact that the Steelers were able to produce so much pressure, it meant that running back Joe Mixon had to stay in the backfield maybe more than Bengals head coach Zach Taylor wanted him to be back there initially. But again, like I said before, when Pittsburgh is dialing up that pressure, when they're creating so much havoc, if you will, with their front four and their front seven, rather, it's a scenario where it's going to make life tough for an opposing offense. And Cincinnati and Jake Browning found that out this evening. And again, this was just what the doctor ordered for the Steelers as their offense looked so much better with Mason Rudolph and quarterback than it did with Mitchell Trubisky. Rudolph was 17 of 27, passing for 290 with two touchdowns and zero picks. And for a lot of people, obviously, this close to Christmas, you want to hear some, a feel good story for somebody with the last name Rudolph. But nonetheless, George Pickens, who's had some ups and downs throughout his brief time with the Steelers, four catches for a buck 95. Of course, most of that damage came on that 86-yard touchdown play. And then so much balance today from this Pittsburgh offense. 113 yards on the ground, 397 yards of total offense as their offense was able to finally match the output of their D. You think about it, Pittsburgh's 8-7 right now, but you just have to wonder where this team could be if their offense was better. Pittsburgh's offense has not been good all season long. Of course, we saw them fire offensive coordinator Matt Canada a couple of weeks ago, but nonetheless, the Steelers were able to put all of that aside. Of course, it didn't work out when Mitchell Trubisky was in there filling in for an injured Kenny Pickett, but nonetheless, with Mason Rudolph at least, things looked a lot better for this team. Mike Tomlin, who's been under fire lately, had his team ready to go today. Again, this was a much needed victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they're hanging on to some slim playoff hopes. And I say slim because Pittsburgh's now 8-7, but you look at it, they still got their work cut out for them if they're going to try to go out there and make the postseason. Their last two are on the road, not easy games at Seattle and at Baltimore. And of course, the Ravens right now are in the catbird seat to try to get home field advantage throughout on the AFC side. With that said, You look at this logjam. Cleveland's at 9-5 for these wild card spots. You got Indy at 8-6, Houston at 8-6, Buffalo at 8-6. Cincinnati came into play today at 8-6 as well. So if you're Pittsburgh, you just beat Cincinnati. You swept the regular season series. So of course you get the tiebreaker. But then Pittsburgh lost to Houston earlier this season. They just lost to the Indianapolis Colts last Saturday night. The last I checked, the Buffalo Bills did score, but they're still trailing the Los Angeles Chargers as we speak. So Pittsburgh needs some teams to lose, but then on top of that, they've got to take care of their business, which is easier said than done. And of course, for Pittsburgh, they've had a lot of ups and downs this year. But if they miss the postseason, clearly they're going to look back at those two home games earlier this month where they fell to both the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots. Two games that they were heavily favored in. Of course, the Arizona game was where Kenny Pickett was injured, but still, nonetheless, you expected them to take care of their business at home against the previously two-win New England Patriots. That didn't happen. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, once the Joe Burrow injury happened, it's a scenario where a lot of people did expect the Bengals to falter. And to Zach Taylor's credit, he has had this team ready to play. And Jake Browning's first three starts as the starting quarterback for the for the Cincinnati Bengals this season, they won all three until today, as they simply ran into a buzzsaw in Pittsburgh. And for Cincinnati, clearly, they were playing with house money, in my opinion, once Joe Burrow went out. It's going to be an even tougher road for them to get to the postseason at Kansas City next Sunday, then home against Cleveland. And again, you lose a tiebreaker to Pittsburgh. You also lose a tiebreaker to the Houston Texans, who are 8-6. But you do win the tiebreakers over both the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts. So if the Bills happen to lose tonight, and if the lose tomorrow to the Atlanta Falcons, guess what? The Cincinnati Bengals are still right there in the mix, even though they still lose the tiebreaker to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But nonetheless, this is all about the Steelers right now. Uh, I'm not even going to call it about the man of the hour because a lot of people are going to give a ton of credit to Mason Rudolph, and he deserves some credit. I think this is a team of the hour. And the reason why I say that, they answered the bell as a whole. This is the best that I've seen the Steelers play in all three phases of the game all season long. Maybe it might be too little, too late. We don't know. But nonetheless, they finished off their home finale with a bang. They still have a heartbeat for the postseason. And let's see how the final 2 weeks of this regular season are going to play out for the black and gold. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.